So let's talk about some general principles for going faster on the test. And I want to start with an example. So do you see here, we have someone who is typing using one finger at a time. You probably know people who do that, right? Maybe your grandparents, maybe kids start off typing that way, or I don't know, maybe they don't even use keyboards nowadays. Can you think about what you would say if someone who typed like this wanted to type faster? What would you advise them? You know, I'm limited to just typing 10 words per minute. You know, I want to get faster. Well, you'd probably say, start typing with with all of your fingers, right? Start typing in the standard QWERTY format, right? Use all of your fingers, learn which fingers should press which letters. Now, if that person actually followed your advice, would they immediately be faster the very next day? Or is it possible they'd still be faster by just hunting and pecking, typing one finger at a time? What if that person comes to you and says, you know what, I've been typing with all of my fingers for a whole week, and you know what, I'm really not any faster than I was before. So shouldn't I just go back to what I was doing before? What do you think you'd probably say? Just, you didn't practice enough, right? You have to keep using the better process over a longer period of time, and you will be guaranteed to go faster at that point, right? I think that probably intuitively makes sense, right? Although, let me know if you disagree. Now, let's say this person actually starts typing with 5 fingers on each hand. They do improve, but you notice that they're looking at their fingers when they type, right? They don't remember exactly where all the letters are, so they have to look at their fingers when they type. If they wanted to go faster, you'd probably advise them, well, you know, practice looking away and not looking down at your fingers, no matter how difficult it is at first, right? And of course, it'll be natural that may slow them down at first. But over time, you probably agree that they will be way faster in the end if they practice that. So take a look at this chart, this graphic. And I think this is a way of visualizing this idea that sometimes using the right process actually is slower at first. And it may be slower for quite a while, actually. The person who is doing this solid line, right, who's increasing at the very start, but then plateauing, that person is the one finger typer, right? That person is someone who is doing the LSAT based only on intuition and is afraid to do something different because when they do, they seem to go slower, they seem to get more wrong. But I think one of the principles of improving at the LSAT is that effective processes may slow you down at first. Many of them, in fact, will slow you down at first. And you have to trust in the process. You know, if you're using study materials or using a course that's highly regarded, there's probably a reason it's highly regarded, because the things that they recommend generally are going to work better than your own intuition, at least at the start. And so I would just advise you to commit to practicing, commit to using an effective process. And of course, later on, when we get to each section, we'll talk about what those effective processes are for each section. All right. So here's the second principle of LSAT speed. And I want to take a look at this graphic. It's an animated graphic. And what do you think it represents? Do you notice that the race car at the top, it's actually moving faster, right? A lot faster than the bottom car throughout the entire course. But who actually gets to the destination first? So what do you think, how do you think this relates to LSAT practice? Well, it suggests that going faster, actually moving faster, doing things faster, drawing faster, thinking faster, is not necessarily what results in being faster at the test. In fact, being faster at the test is largely more dependent on knowing where to go and not making mistakes on your way there. So going really fast might feel like you're going faster, but if it causes you to make more mistakes, if it causes you to not be precise about what you're supposed to do for a problem, then it's actually extremely counterproductive. All right. And so that's the second principle that I want to emphasize here. Knowing where to go and how to get there is much more important than actually moving fast. All right. You can actually be quite slow in the actual steps you take and still still get a very high score. Someone who is frantic, who is going to the questions as fast as they possibly can, who is reading and skimming, is generally speaking going to do a lot worse than someone who's just very slow and deliberate. All right, so one last principle before we get into some specific pointers. So take a look at this graphic. What do you think it represents? Imagine that the length of the overall bars is the time that someone is taking on a problem or on maybe a set of questions when it comes to games or reading comp. The black part of the bar is the time that they spend reading the stimulus, reading the rules, thinking about the rules, thinking about the passage. The gray part is the time that they actually take in the answer choices. So the point here is probably pretty clear, right? That sometimes spending more time up front, reading, preparing, making connections, actually saves a significant amount of time later on. And if you've been studying for the LSAT before, this is something you've probably seen. That's advice you've probably heard quite a bit. I bring it up because I want to emphasize it. It is one of the fundamental ways to go faster. Spend more time than you think you need to up front.